Hey guys, Kribben Governor from the Gut Health Gurus podcast. I've got a background in food science. My colleague next to me, James Shadrack, is all things psychology and psychology in the gut. And we have an Aussie today, and he's a fascinating fellow, Jason Bawden Smith. And he's making some waves in that kind of mitochondriac world in Australia at the moment. And I'm so excited to be part of his journey and part of his mission. Jason, firstly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, guys. What a wonderful job you're doing. Great service to humanity. And you just told me that all the girls love your show, and I know why. Too good looking, you fella. So you're attracting all the women. Now I know why you do video. So I've got a head for podcasting. I haven't got a head for video. Anyway.
And Jason, what we like to do at the start, thank you for that flattering comment. You're too kind. But what we like to do is to introduce our audience and set the scene for our audience. So the question we always ask is, who is Jason Bawden Smith?
Wow, open question. Where will I start? I'm Sydney-based, Australian-born environmental scientist. I have an applied science degree in environmental health and a master's in environmental science. I did start a PhD, but I quit halfway because I got so much business for being a consultant. My area of expertise, what I'm kind of most well known for, is heavy metal toxicity, particularly childhood lead poisoning. So I started a company called JBS Environmental that has now grown in 25 years to become the #1 contaminated land consultancy company. So if it's filthy, disgusting, dirty, horrible, we're excited because we take that mess, we clean it up and allow the residential and other developments to be made. So it's a big company now. We've had a couple of mergers. So we're now the biggest in Australia. And that's my claim to fame. But the problem with working so hard and building such, a force in the Australian environmental field was I just worked. And I mean, I worked and I worked and I worked. I never saw the sun because I was at work before it rose. And I never saw it when I came home because I worked late. And I worked 6 days a week for 25 years, working my, backside off. And while the success is great, and I'm lucky now to have enough money to do things that I care about and am passionate about, and hopefully we'll talk about that in a minute. Mm-hmm. But I was so disconnected from nature and so addicted to, I'm going to say, technology. It really wasn't technology. It was business. It was the thrill of the game. It was, we have an addiction, us entrepreneur types, where we like to get the deal. It's the thrill of the kill. It's like going hunting. Mm-hmm. It's something about getting that deal. And it is an addiction. And I wrote about that in my first book called Making Waves, which most people don't know about. That's my business book. How did a working class kid coming out of Maroubra Beach back in the dark days of the Bra Boys, if anyone knows about the history of Maroubra, it was a pretty rough town, and to the success where I am now. I wrote about that in Making Waves, if those people really want to understand where I come from and what I do. Mm-hmm. I imagine you want to talk about now and what happened to me and how I found about Jack Kruse and mitochondria and biophysics and the whole new approach to health, which is just utterly amazing, Kerman. I mean, I'm stunned.
Yes.
From what I've found. And I still don't believe it, despite being living, breathing proof.
I have just a burning question for you, because just to kick off the show, and I was just doing a bit of research on you, Jason, and I was wondering if you could tell us the story about your cricket outfit at home.
So I was quite a good cricketer. I used to go to cricket camps with Mark and Steve Wall. Mm-hmm. At 16, I was playing A-grade cricket for Randwick. I was pretty good at it. However, I discovered women. I discovered, some of the more naughty things in life, like alcohol and parties. And And I soon found the cricket just took too long. It took all day. In fact, we play, for the American listeners, we play a sport called cricket that goes for 5 days, not 5 hours, 5 days, and it can still end the draw. That's the English's fault, not our fault.
Yeah.
But it's a great game, and I really enjoyed it. So I still have some cricket clothes. And I became blue light toxic. So blue light toxic is the frequencies we get out of artificial lighting, whether it's any light. Doesn't matter if it's an LED, doesn't matter if it's a halogen. Even the old incandescent bulbs, while they're probably the best for health, they still gave off blue light. All our screens, our smartphones, our laptops, all the advertising, we call it now ALAN, artificial light at night.
Mm-hmm.
And after discovering Kruse and doing all this work, I realized that melanopsin, which is this kind of photoreceptor, is really badly damaged by blue light, and especially at night. So they found, I think it was 2017, you probably remember that date better than me, but it was recently, that melanopsin's not just the photoreceptor in your eye, where it's very dominant and been known for a long time, it's also in your subcutaneous fat, and also in your arteries. So now we have to protect our skin. So this is like a cricket top. This is actually a business shirt, but I'd wear that. I'd roll my sleeves down. I'd have cricket pants on. I'd have a hat on, and I'd be wearing not these daytime blue blockers. I don't wear glasses. I'm doing this because you're making me look at a screen.
Yeah.
You put the red ones on, right?
Yeah.
So these block all the frequencies up to 550. So I've got my full cricket outfit, my red blue blockers, and I sit down and have dinner with the family. My daughter thinks I'm absolutely nuts. My wife already knew that because she married me, so she kind of knew that. But Amber just shakes her head, just going, "What are you doing? What are you wearing?" I'm saying, "Well, turn the lights off." They're saying, "No, we need the lights." And that's why I wear cricket clothes at night.
I hear you, Jason, and it's a very similar story in my household. I also have those blue light blocking glasses at night, and I'm also have perfect vision as well, and I wear these because I'm looking at a screen. So we're equally as crazy as one another because we've bought into the science of melanopsin and why it's so important and trying to optimize our health.
Yeah.
Yeah, so where do we go from here? So I thought, well, you have a huge, I guess, mission statement, and your mission statement is become a mitochondriac and help us reverse chronic illness in 100 million people by 2030. Now, firstly, set the scene for the audience, as in why this is so important to you. What drives you? You know, you're a successful guy. You've clearly made it in the world from a material standpoint. Why this mission?
That's a really great question and very personal. And I'm not shy of being transparent. I like people to know who I really am. And before we get into why I'm doing it, we need to understand a little bit of background. If I can just give a little bit of background to the audience.
Sure.
So we have this Professor Wallace, this dude out of the University of Pennsylvania. He's the head pediatrician, I think, at the children's hospital there. And he's the guy who discovered mitochondria you just get from your mum. So all your audience know about that. But his research over the last 30 years, I think it was 1970 when he made that discovery, has now kind of proven, and it's not a theory, it's pretty close to fact, but no one wants to look at it, is he says 80 to 85% of all chronic diseases are related to mitochondrial dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when I went to uni and I did, all the biologies, microbiologies, organic chemistry, biochemistry, you name it, I did all them. We never got told anything about that. We got told mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, but that was pretty much it. So Kruse, who I know you've had on, Jack, he's dug deeper into that work, and he's come out and said 95% of all chronic diseases are related to mitochondrial health. Mm-hmm. So when I heard this, I went, that means, and I had 20 chronic diseases, folks. Don't think I'm this brilliant, healthy man that I am now, because I was a complete mess. Mm-hmm. Kruse said, I think on your podcast or one recently, that Jason was whistling Dixie on the deck of the Titanic. That's how bad I was. Like, some people reckon I only had 6 months to live. I don't believe that, but some of the doctors did say that you were so chronically ill through your whole body, like whether it was the heart attack I had or the cancers I had or the diabetes or the high blood pressure, all the pain, like the grade 4 cartilage in both knees, all the perforated and herniated discs in my back, it just goes on and on and on. And I'm convict blood, let's admit it. I'm an Aussie, I'm from a generation that was kicked out of England, and thank goodness we got kicked out. And so Scottish background, so mitochondria is very Scottish with English, and I'm very resilient. I'm like a truck. You just can't knock me down. I could have 20 beers in the heyday and be fine.
Wow.
Most people would be throwing up. Sure. It's just I've got this constitution, right? And I just ignored all my illnesses, never got tested, never cared, just kept going. And when my knees went, I could hardly walk. I literally had nearly bone on bone in both knees. MRI confirmed all that. I went, okay, I'm in trouble now. Can't walk, so I better get tested. So once I got tested, I tried everything to get better. I mean, all the Macquarie Street specialists, for those who don't know, in Sydney, all the specialists hang out in Macquarie Street in Sydney. I went to the allopathics everywhere, and then I was decided the functional, the integrative. I tried every diet, and I'm a big boy. I was 150 kilo at my peak. I was a beast. I was really big, and nothing really worked. Some things helped. I'm not going to say some things didn't help, but they really didn't work. And in frustration, I was down the beach, ironically at sunrise. I live in near Coogee Beach, and I go there often. And I just got this download to study physics and biology, and that led to Kruse, and that led to mitochondria. And I thought they were all full of shit. Can I swear? Am I allowed to say SHIT?
Yeah,
they're full of crap. I don't know. Like in Australia, you can say shit like a kid will tell you that's it. But, it's not a good thing. It's just we're a bit, more colloquial down here. And I just couldn't believe that I've spent my life studying the impact of the environment on human health, and I didn't know this. I was brought up that the sun was evil, and I shouldn't go near it. And my mother used to chase me around, the backyard when I was a kid with sunscreen. I can remember it, like that we were just so conditioned to avoid the sun. And how could you believe it? Seriously, come on. Like, you can actually get well by going to the beach and eating oysters.
Yeah.
That's pretty much the byline that I used to describe what I did. Now, we did a bit more. We talked about the glasses, and I'm sure we're going to talk about DDW and a few other things. But I just called bullshit, and I said, well, I'm not getting better, so I'll try it. I just tried it and followed the protocols, and I got better and better and better and better. And then when I did the DDW, which was a key thing for me, everyone does it later, but it was very important for me. That was it. I became 28 years old again. My energy was back. My wife used to say to me, how do you run such a successful business lying on your ass in the bed? Because I was so sick, I couldn't get up, right?
Yeah.
But I'd be on my smartphone giving orders to everybody on what to do. And, because I had a lot of staff, like, the conductor of an orchestra. Yeah. She just couldn't believe it. And so now I'm back. I went, holy shit, this thing works. And I still didn't believe it. This is placebo. Come on, Jason. you're a double degree scientist. It can't be this easy. This is bullshit. So I went to Kruse's event down in Mexico last year. Now, I was expecting to see patients, but I think there was 75 members there. And with partners and kids, it's well over 100. We're all running around in all the restaurants around town at night, all with our blue blockers. It was like 100 people with blue blockers standing on these restaurants. It was pretty funny. Anyway, there was no structure to the event, but you'd go to the beach and you'd meet at sunrise. You're there in your cozies, and you just strike up a conversation with a complete stranger. And those strangers end up to be a lot of doctors. And I mean really serious doctors. We're talking an anesthesiologist from Harvard Medical School who called bullshit on Jack's ability to read the MRIs from a quantum perspective and identify all these diseases. So one day on the beach, Kruse is there with these. I thought it was an X-ray because that's how much I know about health, but it was an MRI, and there's about 10 or 15 doctors around him. He's got it in the sun, and he's explaining all these white dots and this. I wasn't listening because that's not my go. I was just watching them. I didn't realise that was his X-ray or his MRI.
Wow.
And he sat down with me at breakfast and said, now I know why I need DDW. I need to know everything about water. So I told him about the water because he was told by the head of radiology and all the X-ray experts and MRI experts at Harvard that there's no way Kruse could interpret those scans in that way. And he was like shattered. He just went, I got told by the best at Harvard that this couldn't be done. And there I am on the beach in Mexico with 15 other guys proving it can be done.
Yeah.
His life changed at that moment.
Wow.
And I needed that credibility, that reinforcement.
Yeah.
Because I'm just an environmental guy. I'm not a medical guy.
Yeah.
And I could give you a dozen stories like that. I'll give you one more because I want people to understand that this is not Jason's bullshit or Jack's kind of, stories. This is very real. And another doctor, and I'm not using their names because I don't have permission to share these stories, but I'm telling you, these guys are very real. And if I ever get any time, I'll start doing podcasts with them or just interviews to let them tell their story.
Yeah.
So another guy worked at, it's called, don't quote me, Cannon Ranch or Cannon Farm. It's where all the celebrities go to get better in the US. So Mark Hyman's the head doctor there. He's a very celebrity kind of functional doctor.
Totally.
Well, this guy was an allopathic doctor, so he was normally trained and then went and did all the integrative functioning training. And here's a guy who had access to all the medical knowledge. So he covered all the traditional and all the alternative medicine. He had access to every tool. Like imagine a celebrity ranch, how many gadgets and, all the different equipment they have, and he couldn't get better. And it wasn't until he sat down in Jack's got a doctor group and learnt about understanding, we call it quantum electric dynamics, QED. It's called it quantum biology, quantum mechanics. And since he's been adopting the same protocols that I use, he's got better. And he couldn't get better in that situation.
Jeez.
So while we're down there, Jack's an interesting cat, right? He just doesn't settle. He pushes that hard and everyone so far that you just want to punch him in the face, literally. Like, he is kind of annoying, and he's quite happy to admit that he's a bit of an arrogant, annoying person. It's actually a trait that's enduring to him. And he just started telling everyone about my story and what I was doing or thinking about doing. Let's be honest, I didn't decide to do it. And we're talking Christmas last year, folks, a few months ago.
Wow.
And so I went, holy shit, getting back to your question, why am I doing it? We have discovered the answers to almost all chronic diseases.
Jeez.
And the techniques are so simple. Now, they're not easy to do because you've got to change your lifestyle. They're not easy, but they're really simple. I mean, they're third grade primary school simple.
Okay, let's get into it.
Yeah, so I went, well, I really don't need to work again because I'm lucky that my environmental company gives me... I killed myself to get to that position, by the way, but anyway, I'm now kind of successful, and I thought, okay, I want to do that. I want to share one more story before we get into the details, and I know we've run a 40-minute schedule, but you want to know why I'm doing this, really know why I'm doing this?
Totally.
I watched my mother suffer from chronic diseases from the day I was born. So I was born with shitty mitochondria.
Oh, God.
I didn't know that until 50 years of age. And she had every childhood diseases and she got progressively worse over time. And as a general rule, people die 3 ways early. One is through the brain, so neurological damage. The other one's through the heart, the kind of cardiology, and the other one's, I call it through the gut. We're in a gut show. Let's call it through the gut, which is the cancers, and the gut issues. There's autoimmune, there's other reasons as well, but they're the 3 primary ones. And she had ended up getting dementia and died of inflammation of the brain and encephalopathy. And now I know mitochondrial dysfunction and the gradual process it takes. Like, we forget we lose 10% of our mitochondrial function every decade as a natural aging and death process.
Sure.
It's just some of us get there quicker. So we're probably biologically designed to live to 100. Now, some outliers can live to 20 and some kids can die early. But we're biologically designed to live around 100. Most of us make it to about 80. So we're compromising our natural lifespan by the lifestyles we take normally. And I was doing that and as well, because I was watching myself become my mother. I could see the gradual degradation that she went through that I was going through. And if I knew what I know now, she'd be still alive today.
Oh, God.
And it gets worse. Or, you know, and I used to cry a lot when I said this, but I've said it enough now that I don't get so emotional. I'm still emotional, but I won't fall out with the tissues. On her death, like, I'm a health detective. That's why I worked in New South Wales. I cut my story short a bit, but I worked in New South Wales Health Department for 5 years as an environmental guy who investigated outbreaks, whether it was Legionnaire's disease, whether it was, you know, typhoid or cholera. That doesn't happen very often in Australia, but when it does, we're out there finding it and solving it, right through to chemical incidents, radiological stuff, you name it, we did it. And I'm good at sniffing out problems and finding solutions. I love problem solving. And she knew that. So on a deathbed, she said, Jason, you know what killed me. You haven't found it yet, but you know it. And when you find it, you've got to tell the world.
Oh, wow. That's
the real reason I'm doing it.
Wow.
People think I'm nuts because what I'm doing now is just crazy busy and it's giving me the shits and I'm just going, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. But because my motivation is deep and it's, you know, at a core level, and I cop a lot of you know, opposition to doing what I'm doing. So yeah, that's what drives me.
I really appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that amazing story, and it's so heartwarming to understand, you know, what really drives such a big mission statement. And now, you know, I'm 100% behind you because it's very, very touching, and there's a real reason why you do what you do and why you're putting yourself out there. So thank you so much for sharing. Now, how about Jason? We go down some strategies. So there's some learnings that you had along this journey. So how about we pick a few to tackle?
Okay, you know, the 101 strategy is get up with the sun. Actually get up before the sun. As soon as you hear that bird sing, get up. Make your way to the best location you can see the sunrise. It doesn't matter if you're not on the horizon on a beach. Just get outside, barefoot on the grass. If you're lucky enough to live near the coast, go down the beach like I do and just get in. I get in like a contemplative. I've done a lot of meditation in my life, but I found I just sit down or stand up and I connect with the sun, which is the father energy. I then connect with the mother energy of the earth and bring that into my heart soul center, to me. To me, that is the Holy Trinity. I don't want to upset any Catholics or any religious people, and everyone's entitled to their beliefs, and I'm not degrading them at all, but that to me is the Holy Trinity for me. So I do that while I'm looking at the sun, and I watch it directly. I mean, I literally watch it come up the horizon. Now, once it gets a little bit high, you don't want to look directly at the sun. Some of the long-term sun gazers look between the sun and the horizon, look in the middle between there. I'm not going to recommend that. I'm going to recommend you look to the side. And you want to stay there for as long as you can. 3 minutes is probably enough to settle your circadian biology and get all your hormones and all your kind of clocks running properly. But I try and stay, because I go in the water and have a swim, you know, because the great thing about the water, it's a natural Faraday cage. And even though I'm down a Coogee Beach, surrounded by bloody cell towers everywhere, once I'm in the water, they can't touch me. And yeah, body surf, swim around, maybe do a lap or two of Coogee, do whatever. Sometimes I go snorkeling, whatever it is. And yeah, I'm trying to stay in the sun till it gets to the UVA stage, which is about 8 to 10 degrees off the horizon. Yeah. The length of time will change depending where you are, but let's say within half an hour, and the UVA turns off a lot of those hormones that have been triggered, because you don't want them running all day and then go in blue light all day and they're still triggered and you're still, you're putting your body into biochemical chaos. Mm-hmm. So I do that. The whole light management is, I moved out of my toxic environment in the city. So I worked in a downtown office in the central business district of Sydney, and it's just not healthy. It's just not healthy. Now, I've got staff there now and I've got a director. I'm concerned for them, but what you need to do if you're in the city, because there's a lot of people watching who are working in the city right now, every break you get, so go and have a smoke break, but don't light up a cigarette. Just go and have a sun break. Mm. Just 10 minutes. You need to get up off your desk anyway and walk around. So just walk downstairs, just walk around the block. And if there's a park there, maybe go to the park, take your shoes off a little bit, put them back, come back. Lunchtime must be eaten outside. Everyone goes, oh, well, what about all the cell towers outside? I'm saying most of those offices have glass. It does not block any EMF. Mm. Glass is useless as a shield. So there's not much difference between inside and outside. Plus inside, you've got 50 other employees on their smartphones. Yes. So I don't want to hear this excuse, I can't go outside for lunch. Just go and eat your sandwich outside, this salad or whatever it is. Try and get home, particularly when it's daylight saving, which we're about to lose here in Sydney, early as you can, and go for a walk in the park, swim down the beach, take the kids with you. Take the dog, whatever. Just try and get outside before. Try and leave early. Don't stay back like I did to 8, 9 o'clock. It's disrespectful to your family. It's disrespectful to yourself, and it's not good for you. And then when you get home, we talked about cricket clothes and the blue blockers, so we don't need to go into that. So that's light management. When it comes to food, the only food that I'm really interested in now, and I was a bit of a food guru like you guys, taking supplements and involved in all this biochemistry stuff. Mm-hmm. I just really focus on natural sources of DHA and minerals. Yeah. And the number one thing is oysters. That's why I say, and I don't like oysters. I don't. Well, right? I eat 3 dozen a week. Wow. And I eat them like medicine. So I don't like the taste. And I treat them like the most expensive bloody medicine you can buy. But my DHA was trashed from all the blue light toxicity, so I've got to rebuild it up. Mm. So that's the only dietary change I made. The number one rule for, I think, every food nutritionist I know is just eat seasonally. What grows in your garden is what you eat. If it has a packet, don't buy it. That's it. So just find your local butcher who does grass-fed all the way to the plate, because a lot of Australian meat is actually fattened in the last 6 months with grain. Mm-hmm. And they're allowed to call it organic grass-fed because I forget what the definition is, but they meet the definition. Right. So you get to know your butcher, right? Go and shop at the markets. Now, I don't know how America works, but we have a lot of local markets in Australia, and go and support them. And there'll be people there who are not organic, but don't use pesticides. They just haven't got the money to go through the regulatory process of certification. Yes. And they'll even invite you to the farm. Get to know them. Right?
That's amazing.
That's what I do for food. When it comes to electromagnetic fields, which is something that I know a lot about and don't talk much about for certain reasons, but this house that I'm in now has, I use a meter that we call it the Mitometer. It's actually made in Israel and we didn't make it. Fantastic. Partly because it gets very confusing if you start talking about, milliwatts per square meter or microwatts per square centimeter, and then you've got your milligauss and you've got your electron volts, and then people talk nanoteslas. People lose it. So why I like this meter and why I recommend everyone have one, and I'll give an example of what I did last weekend. So this is running around 2 to 3 green dots,
Mm-hmm.
You want nothing. But this house everywhere is too green for radio frequencies and microwaves. I live in Randwick. I am surrounded by cell towers. Now, I'm not going to go through how I designed the house because we haven't got time, but I purpose-built this house partly into the ground. So you can't see here, but kind of from my belly button down, I'm in soil. And the window is up here because that's a natural Faraday cage as well, getting connected to the soil. Pure zinc roof. All my cabling is, very high quality. It's all put in perfectly. It's all up high. My ceilings. There's lots of things we need to do to build a low EMF house.
Yes.
I spent a lot of time with EHS people, electro hypersensitivity people. Mm-hmm. I had a lady come out here. I don't think she believed me, to be honest. A lot of people don't believe me. I don't know why. Because it's kind of outrageous. Some of the things I'm saying can't be true. Like, I was the same. I didn't believe it either, people. I didn't believe it, but I have to now. So she came out with all her meters, and she's just going, oh, this is like a womb. I could live here. And she lives up in the Blue Mountains. So for those who don't know, it's about an hour and a half drive out of Sydney up in the mountains. Beautiful, beautiful area. Mm-hmm. She said, you've got levels lower than I have in my house. How do you do it? Yeah. So there's techniques. We know how to do this stuff. So now if I go to the shopping centre, I go in the city, I'm fried, right? Let's know it. So I do have strategies to get around that. I take extra minerals. So I have a potassium sodium mix. So 2/3 sodium, 1/3 potassium chloride. And because we're very short of particularly potassium and magnesium, but also iodine and selenium and other ones as well. Yeah. And that just allows your cells to stop what Professor Powell was talking about with the calcium efflux. So it helps. Got to speak to Scott or Jack or one of the medical guys or the biology guys to understand the real process, because I'm not a doctor and I don't speak about that, but I do take a teaspoon under my tongue, let it absorb. I do, when I have a high blue light toxic day or EMF day, I do drink straight DDW.
I'll just pause there for a sec. Is there any particular brand of supplement that you take that you recommend the audience have a look at?
I just buy, I think the salt, I use Celtic sea salt. That's my sodium chloride. So it's actually hand-picked in France.
Right.
The darker the salt, the more fluoride. Fluoride is one of the minerals I'm really concerned about because it's a dielectric effect in water and it stops you to build your redox potential. So that's why I don't recommend fluoride. Like all the greenies will say, oh, calcifies your pineal gland and all that. I don't know about that. But I do know it is a dielectric effect in water and I don't want my redox compromised at all. So I definitely careful because everyone thinks fluoride's in water. You get more fluoride through Himalayan salt than you'll ever get through water. No, everyone goes, what do you mean, my pink salt? What do you mean? Yeah, go and have a look how much fluoride's in your pink salt. The black salt, oh my goodness, loaded.
Oh, geez.
Yeah.
I was not aware of that. Thank you for sharing because it's definitely something we need to look at ourselves.
Yeah, and the potassium chloride, I think there's several brands out there. I'm not really here to recommend brands, but just one that's commonly available in your health food shop or on the internet. It's just potassium chloride. Don't get potassium, some other thing. Chloride. Sodium chloride, potassium chloride. And it's a 2/3, 1/3 mix. 2/3 sodium, 1/3 potassium. And I do that for all my salt. So if I'm putting salt on my meat or food, I use that as a standard protocol now because I know I'm low on potassium. And I eat the oysters for the selenium and the iodine and magnesium and other elements. My pool is using magnesium as a way for disinfection. Instead of using salt, like normal sea salt, I use magnesium and potassium chloride. A few tricks like that I do to keep my minerals up. Australian soil is very depleted naturally. Like that's why it's nearly a desert through 2/3 of the world, 2/3 of the country. But we don't have a lot. We have no volcanoes, so we have no real minerals. They're all gone. They're all washed out in the ocean. So we've got to be really careful in Australia to have lots and lots of minerals. It's really important. You know, an osteo once told me it's not a pinch of salt, it's a punch of salt that we need.
You got something?
Yeah, Jason, I was just interested. Are there some unique challenges that we have here in Australia as opposed to other parts of the world?
Yeah, we have two. So we talk about, Kruse calls it the three-legged stool. Now, call me funny, but medicine and health and stool, I start thinking about poo. So I call it nature's three secrets. And they really have been, they were secrets to me, and they're secrets to many people in this audience. And that's light, water, and magnetism. Now, we don't have trouble with light. Maybe down at Tasmania where the ozone layer can still come over. It doesn't really hit mainland anymore. It makes the sun so piercing that it prevents sulfation for your vitamin D. So that can be an issue with the ozone layer. But generally, we have truckloads of UV, truckloads of infrared, like it's beautiful, shiny. Maybe you Melbourne guys suffer a bit with weather, but in Sydney, it's pretty sunny.
Yeah.
The further you go up the coast, you know, we're blessed with sunshine. So that's not our problem. Our problem is magnetism. So magnetism is the natural, let's call them currents or voltages. These are the magnetic fields that occur naturally in the magma. So that's why Kruse loves Mexico so much in the Yucatan Peninsula, is because that's where the big meteorite hit. So there's less ground cover between the magna flow and the earth. So they have a lot of magnetic fields there. Now, I'm not an expert in magnetic fields, and it's a subject I was talking to Nathan about that we need to get up to speed on. But Australia has no volcanoes. You know, we do have a meteorite that hit in the middle of the country, you know, out towards Uluru, but no one's going out there. It's too friggin' hot. And I'm on the hunt for magnetism, and I've decided my next holiday, which is in 2 weeks, is to Vanuatu. Vanuatu is only a 3.5 hour flight from Sydney, so it's close.
Yes.
And it has a live volcano. It has an existing live volcano.
Yeah.
Kind of like, you know, in the Big Island in Hawaii, there's actually a suburb called Volcano where it has a live volcano.
Yeah.
The problem with that island, it has a lot of military bases and a lot of, you know, radar and serious EMF. Whereas Vanuatu is...
How about Bali?
Yeah. Bali does have a live volcano, and it's on the Pacific Rim. So I imagine the whole Pacific Rim all the way down to New Zealand is actually higher in magnetism than most countries in the world. So I think you could pick Fiji, New Zealand, Bali. I just want to go to Vanuatu because I haven't been there. And I find Bali is just not my kind of town. You know, I spent a lot of time in Papua New Guinea as part of my environmental career. And, you know, what goes on in Indonesia is just not on. I just don't want to support Indonesia from a personal point of view. But I've been to Bali. You know, it's great diving. It's good surfing. If I had MS, I'd move there tomorrow.
Why is that?
Because there's no multiple sclerosis on the equator.
Oh, okay. I see.
None.
Wow.
Wowzers. And why is that?
It's the circadian mismatch. It's a big topic. We need a whole session on that. And Kruse or one of the quantum docs would be much better explaining it than I can. But in essence, you know, if you're living in Melbourne and you're not getting any sun, you're surrounded by blue light and non-native EMF 24/7. 93% of our time is spent indoors. It's that high, right? So you're surrounded with all the frequencies that you were not designed biologically over millions of years to, you know, to live with. Our biology was specifically designed and evolved with nature's frequencies, the sun, the earth, the plants, the other animals. We go and take ourselves out of that, turn ourselves into a zoo animal, spend all our time indoors with artificial technology and artificial light, and we wonder why we're getting sick. That's why we're getting sick.
Yeah.
Remember, it's the underlying mitochondrial dysfunction is the underlying cause of nearly all chronic disease. When you understand how mitochondria work, then you understand you need those natural frequencies or you're going to get sick of something. So autoimmunity is extremely high in Australia. It's actually high in most modern worlds. I can send you a link where it's a world map and you can pick the disease. Now, it's done by a marketing consultant, so I'm not saying the data is completely accurate.
Yes.
But you can see, like, all the chronic kind of diseases that we suffer from are all in the modern countries, and there's nothing along the equator. Why is that? Because they've got the same sun 24/7. They can't help but get a lot of sun. And what's on the equator? The Pacific Rim. So their magnetic fields are higher as well. What else happens on the equator? They're pretty chilled out. No, their lifestyle's pretty simple. They garden, they fish. You know, it's changing. It's changing. And we're seeing diabetes go nuts along the equator now because they're getting televisions and they're going inside. Same with our Aboriginal community. Diabetes is rife because, you know, food is an issue. Like, I'm not Jack Kruse. Like, I think food is important and I like to eat it. So to me, food's really important. But if you're going to take them away from their traditional diet and start feeding them Coke and putting them inside watching television, they're going to get diabetes. And that's why that's rising in those countries. But if you had a serious disease now, one that everyone says can't be fixed, I would pick your favorite island or country along the equator within the 20s, within the Capricorn, plus 20 and minus 20. So anywhere along those, and I would set up camp there until I got better. And I'd be outside gardening, making my own veggies, fishing, swimming, enjoying life. You know, it doesn't cost much to live there. So I hope you've got enough savings to hang out there. That's what I would. Now, it's not totally true because I had some chronic diseases, but I didn't have those MS or those autoimmune ones where you really had to drop everything and move. There are people in our community that do that. And Rochelle Jones, who won't come on your podcast, is the most amazing lady I know.
Wow.
She had Huntington disease. Huntington disease is a genetic disease. There are genetic diseases. We're not saying there's not genetic diseases. And most people with Huntington disease, which is a neurological kind of brain, you know, the Alzheimer's, Parkinson, a severe form of that, they pass about 50, 55 years of age. So she packed a whole family up from Canberra, moved them up near the Barrier Reef, has been living there for 5 years, and you should see her. Like, she's 53 now, I think, or 52. Don't quote me on that, Rochelle, but she's just in her early 50s. And she looks amazing. Like, she has no grey hair. She's really well tanned because she's maxed out her melanin. And she is not going to die till she's 80. She's going to outlive everyone with that disease. I know it, and she knows it. And she just did the protocol, but she had to move because she had a fatal disease. It was going to kill her, so she had no choice. And she didn't go all the way to the equator because her husband likes to surf. And if you get up, she's at the bottom of the Barrier Reef, so you still get surf. But I think it's 22 or 23. I'm not sure the exact latitude, but it's pretty high up there. And she's thriving, absolutely thriving.
Wow. Jason, we are coming up to time now, but if you wouldn't mind, we've got a couple more topics to cover. And I just want to underscore what you just said. And that's something that's so counterintuitive. Like, we sometimes we get ill, we have predisposition to some illness, but no one talks about packing up and moving to another location. Like, I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, if someone's listening to the podcast and they've got a severe dysfunction in their body or disease, you know, maybe the best thing would be to make a move. And if it's within your means, wow, that could be life-changing for someone out there.
Well, it's the only way you're going to get better. You cannot get well in the environment that made you sick in the first place.
Absolutely.
Like, come on, it's one of those big, come on, it's obvious. Now, what people have never been taught, including me and you guys and everyone listening, is we knew the environment was kind of important. Everyone goes, yeah, I did that circadian biology. I get all that. I say, no, that is it. All the rest is periphery. You must focus on that first. And if you're going to live in an apartment in the middle of Melbourne or Sydney or New York or London and go to work in those environments and not see the sun, you're going to get sick and you're going to die early.
Wow.
Full stop. That's it. That's just a fact. I did not believe it. Remember, we go back to the original part of this story. I thought this was bullshit. It's not, people. And people don't want to hear it because they all can't be true. Like, I would know about it. No, you wouldn't. I didn't know about it. Even Kruse didn't know about it 10, 15 years ago, and he's a neurosurgeon. This is new science that, you know, some say has been hidden from us on purpose. I don't know if that's true or not. We only discovered mitochondria in the 70s. It's pretty new stuff. So That's why the doctors don't know it. That's why the scientists don't know it, because I never got taught it at university, and I spent 8 friggin' years there.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, well, it's fascinating you bringing all this up. I wonder what you think about for younger people too. So I'm 25. I've pretty much lived most of my life with technology, all these EMF. I spend most of my time in an office. And I just wonder what your thoughts are on young people who are growing up in this technological age.
I really feel for them. It's up to you to lead the way. They're not going to listen to me. I've got an 18-year-old daughter here who thinks I'm nuts. You know what? She was sunbaking without her top on in the backyard. No one can see him because I told her that breast cancer is linked to lack of UV on those body parts that never see the sun. Next person you see said, when's the last time your belly button saw the sun? That's the question to ask. Not when the last time you've been in the sun. When did your belly button? Why? I'm a big guy, right? I've been big since a kid. That's just my predisposition. I've lost 30 kilos. I was 150. I was a monster. Wow. So I'm shrinking. As I say to my friends, you guys went off and got 6-packs. I went and got a keg. I win. It's shrinking down to a case, and I may never get to a 6-pack at 50, but you got it. You can't be that big. I agree. So she now understands that we need sun. My wife's a vegetarian. She has not touched meat since she was 9 years of age. She's now eating fish.
Wow.
She had coral trout for dinner last night, literally. And her mother, because it was Amber's 18th birthday, so there's a few relatives there, and they're shocked. I mean, they were literally, because you see the change in me. You've got to be the change, people. Don't tell people what to do. Show them.
Yes.
How good your sleep? Are you sleeping well?
I sleep well, but it's because I'm burnt out by the end of the day.
So if you start doing that light management we talked about, you'll be so vibrant, so fresh, because insomnia is the #1 disease of young people. That and dehydration. We should talk about dehydration because to me, that's the #1 effect of modern life. Dehydration is caused by microwaves. What happens when you put a piece of meat in a microwave? It dehydrates, it shrinks and turns into liver. Right?
Yeah.
Or you put a wet towel over it, you put moisture over it. What frequencies does a microwave use? 2.4 gigahertz. What frequencies do Wi-Fi use? Bluetooth use? 2.4 gigahertz.
My God. Jeez.
So while the power intensity from a microwave is much higher, it's on for 1.5 minutes. How long is your Wi-Fi on? All day, all night. And 101 toxicology is dose by exposure time.
Yeah.
So just because you've got a lower dose, you've got a massive exposure time.
Yeah.
It's worse.
Yeah.
It's worse.
Absolutely.
So people don't know how to test for dehydration, and the best test for all the biologists out there is a BUN creatine ratio. So it's a blood urea nitrogen over creatine ratio. That's the best measure that we have of intracellular hydration.
Wow.
So people say it's like a kidney test, and it is used for kidney testing. But according to Kruse and the Quantum Docs, that's the best measure of intracellular hydration. It's a standard blood test. I think it's under Medicare. All people I know, I was one of them. So anyone with EHS, chronic fatigue, kind of diseases, they're all dehydrated.
Jeez.
Their mitochondria are not making low deuterium water. So mitochondria make 3 things, but 2 things as byproducts, so to speak, is carbon dioxide, which the plants use, and water. And that water is low in deuterium.
Yes.
That makes up the cytosol, the cell water.
Yep.
Without that low deuterium water, all the signaling that happens in your body does not go ahead. And if you're making shit water, like I was, you're going to get sick and die early. That's what's going to happen to your generation. They're going to get dehydrated, and all these other signaling problems are going to cause a raft of different issues, because it depends on who you are and other things in your life. That's why everyone gets different diseases, but they all link back to mitochondria. And that's why we need to get this mitochondrial function back working properly, so we don't have to drink low deuterium water, which costs an absolute bloody fortune. We can just make our own, and we'll be happy thereafter. So
Wow.
I want you to be the example. I want you to lead the way. I want you and your friends to practice the light management specifically. Make sure you get into nature as much as you can, and they will see that you haven't got the big dark eyes. You're not the one falling asleep at the desk. You're not the one suffering from these sleep issues, because you know how to manage your light.
Gotcha.
Then you need to get a little EMF meter, because there'll be spots in your office that are lower than other spots. I was at a Mind conference the weekend before last. Mind is a conference for nutritionists and dietitians and some of the functional medical audience. Fabulous organisation that people should help. And I was sitting right up the front near the speakers, because I ran around and tested and found 2 green where I could sit. All the beautiful people and the speakers and all that were right at the back, right next to the glass. This is at the Hilton, right? This is in the city.
Yeah.
And I went up to them and said, it was all red. It was peeking out on red.
Whoa.
And I said, that's why I'm not sitting there. And they went, oh, because they're all health nuts, right? And so I use that to, even when I'm in exposure areas, I can find the lowest spots. And this is great, because you can walk around your hand and no one can see it. So no one has to know. It's just your own little secret.
Totally.
So I encourage you to get one of those and
Totally.
and find the best spots to work in.
You good, James?
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you.
Cool. So there's one big kind of elephant in the room that you've been mentioning in passing, DDW. Now let's just go into that before we close. So Australia, as you're aware, Jason, that we've been running a lot of tests on the water in Australia, and we know that the Aussie water, our drinking supply, is around 153 ppm, and seawater being 155 ppm. So what's your thoughts on that?
So before you started testing, I tested the whole country. You probably don't know that.
In bits and pieces.
So 150 samples spread across the country.
Yes.
That cost me enough.
It would have cost a fortune. Absolutely.
I wanted to know, because I wanted to prove Kruse wrong.
Oh.
That's my motivation. Like, everyone wants to prove Kruse wrong. Come on. If we're going to be honest, it's really one of the objectives in life these days. And I kind of did.
Right.
The problem was, he's right. Australian water runs from 149 to 163 was the highest I found.
Where was 163?
It was up in Queensland.
My goodness.
And a lot of it is 155 to 157. It's not just 153. So, your tap there is probably 151. My tap in Randwick was 149. Was the same as Blue Mountains water, coming from a limestone well. So to understand deuterium in nature, there's 3 aspects. There's altitude. So the higher up you go, the lower. It is latitude. So the closer to the poles, the lower it is, the higher on the equator. And the third one that everyone doesn't know, and I think I may have been one of the first in the world to actually document this. I actually never documented it, to be honest. I never published it.
Yeah.
I just haven't got time to publish papers anymore, is geology. And why is geology important? Because where does the water sit before you take it? In a well, right? It sits in a well. It sits in a reservoir.
Yes.
So why is Icelandic glacial water the same as Blue Mountains water, both 149? Because the limestone caves of Jenolan Caves in the Blue Mountains, the limestone areas of the Blue Mountains, naturally depletes the deuterium. So it might come in at 153, 154, but it naturally goes down to 149. What happens in the glacial mountains? The glacial mountains come in at 140 or lower and then sit in a volcanic basalt kind of geology. And that brings it up to 149.
Gotcha.
So people underestimate geology. I've been very quiet on DDW for many reasons. I will come out in a big way, but it might be a few years because there's things we're doing behind the scenes and we don't want people to know what we're doing.
Sure.
At the moment, we're stuck with importing deuterium water from overseas. The main way it's being produced principally in 3 or 4 countries: Russia, China, Hungary and Romania are the 4 main countries. They're all using a fractional distillation process, pretty much similar to oil industry, where they get different diesels and petroleum products at different fractions.
Mm-hmm.
They can do that with hydrogen. So deuterium is heavier, so it's a heavier fraction than a lighter fraction. So they literally boil it up, condense it down, and capture the lighter fraction and repeat that process under pressure to give you low deuterium water. Extremely expensive, incredibly inefficient, and it's something that I could never use if I was to start a DDW company, just because it just goes against my environmental principles, which is, let's make as least impact on the planet as we can, and use, make it. It just takes so much energy. It's ridiculous. It's like 10 kilowatts per litre to make the stuff. That's insane using that technology. It's just not appropriate. Now, there's several new techniques that are coming into the area, most of which have not been used at an industrial level. They're all lab stuff. We're involved in those trials. I'm very interested in them. And, I think low deuterium water is probably going to be one of the most powerful medicines we're going to need moving into a society where everyone's mitochondria is being crashed, just because they can't make the low deuterium water. So we need to substitute it to get them better before they don't need to drink it anymore. So I am involved in a big way in DDW. Most people know that if they followed me. But because of some things that have been going on behind the scenes, I've decided to be quiet on it.
Sure.
Not because we're trying to hide anything commercial. I wish someone else would go and build the plants. I really wish they did.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to do it. I want someone else to do it because they've made the hassle.
Yeah.
But it's many millions of dollars investment, and I would never get involved in building something that was 60-year-old technology because it's just not efficient and too expensive. The other part of deuterium that no one talks about, the debate's being led by biochemists out of LA. Everyone knows who I'm talking about. I think the head professor there is brilliant and he knows biochemistry really well. Some of the others, not so much, but they don't understand biophysics. They're very big on a breathy test. What is a breathy test? What is it actually testing? To me, it's probably capillary kind of deuterium related to blood. Well, deuterium's meant to be in your blood. That's where it's meant to be. Deuterium is not a dirty word, folks. Babies cannot be born unless they're totally deteriorated.
That's it.
What does deuterium do to the sleeve that covers nerves, right? So all your myelination of your nerve cells, it's like putting a plastic cover over your wires at home. Babies don't have that. The reason they don't have that is because in the 3rd trimester of pregnancy, all the deuterium from the mother is passed over by the placenta to deteriorate that baby to a point where there's no myelination, because they need to get that big bull head through a skinny vagina. That's why you come out with pointy heads as a baby, because they can squash up. And why do you think children and teenagers love carbs so much? They need as much deuterium as they can get, because they've got to myelinate all those nerves to make sure they get full production and protection and all those things. And that doesn't really finish till 25, 26 years of age. Wow. So, when you understand deuterium, you understand mitochondria, you actually understand everything. Everything about health. It's so simple. But everyone made it so complex. I'll go to these lectures on mitochondria and they rave on about biochemical pathways that they don't even understand themselves. They're just throwing out big names, pretending what they're doing. I'm a results guy. I'm not a thought leader. Anyone can have a thought. I want results. Right? I want results. I'm a business guy. Where's your balance sheet? Where's your P&L? I want to see how you're really going. And if I look at the P&L and balance sheet of the health industry, whether it's allopathic, functional, integrative, epic fail. You're out of business, you're bankrupt. You have let us down. We're all getting sick and you haven't got a clue what you're doing to help us. And I'm pissed about that.
Of course.
And now I hear that I just got to go down to the beach and eat oysters and I get better. Now I'm even more pissed. I could have been doing that forever.
Exactly.
It's amazing, right? Like, you know, and people are going to go, oh, they're going to kill you. Well, what are they going to kill me for? Like, you know, I'm not doing anything wrong here. 95% of the population not going to care. They're going to go through Medicare and listen to the doctors and this, that, and the other. So we're not a threat to any industry. We just want to be the example, right? That's why I keep saying, be the change that you want to be. There's a pretty famous guy who said that. I think his name was Gandhi, right? So let's be the change that we want to see, because then your wife starts eating fish. Come on.
And sunbathing.
You know, your daughter starts wearing blue blockers.
That's it.
You know, come on. Let's just be the change we want to be. And that's how we're going to get to the target of 100 million people in just over a decade.
Totally. And just one final thought loop while we close the deuterium piece. So is there a place to use the deuterium depleted water? It is expensive. I mean, but is there a case for people to actually invest in it if there is a certain condition?
Absolutely. Like if your mitochondria are not working properly and you have a genuine disease, and it could be just diabetes, if you do the program, like the light program we talked about, and the EMF program, and add DDW, I'm pretty confident in 3 to 6 months your insulins are back to normal.
Wow.
That's what happened to me. That's what happened to me.
Yeah.
And it's happened to other people I've been testing on the side. That's why I say we're doing a lot of stuff around the background.
Yeah.
But, you know, we're not medical people. We don't diagnose. We don't treat. It's just water. It's all it is water.
Yeah.
And, yeah, there's a few things I could go into here, but not publicly on your podcast.
Sure. I hear you. And we'll start to wrap now, Jason. And what we like to do is to close with a question. If there was one thing that someone listening to this podcast could do for their gut health or health in general, what would it be?
I want to be a little bit different than just say the obvious thing, go in the sun. I want them to understand how magnificent they are. Like, people have been told for too long they're not worthy, they're not good enough. You know, they're the fleas on the back of a dog. You know, it's disgraceful. They're magnificent people. I mean, every and each and one of us. And if we understand who we are and we go deep within, every great teacher told us to go within and identify who we are, then all the answers you want in life will come through. So I want you to sit down outside in the morning and just be the best you can. Just feel into you and be the best you can. And once you start doing that, magic happens.
Wonderful. And what a beautiful way to close this show. And any parting words, James?
No, I think that was incredible. So thank you so much for sharing.
You're welcome.
Jason, huge gratitude. You are a shining light, a shining beacon. And, you know, here in Australia, you know, James and I will support you as much as we can. And thank you for coming onto the podcast.
Thanks, guys. And if you want to take a quiz on how good your mitochondria is going, we do have a quiz on our website. I've got to give one plug.
Awesome. We'll definitely link to your website, MitoHQ.
Yeah, that's it, mitohq.com, mitochondrial headquarters. And we're just starting. Like, we're really just started, and we're going to get better and better and better, and we're going to bring more and more people in. It's a community. It's a movement. And I'm not doing this for money. I'm pretty much it's cost me a fortune, to be honest. Yeah. But I want this out there. And thank you guys for supporting the cause, for being mitochondriacs in training, if not already qualified. I really appreciate you and what you're doing.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you so much. Jason Bawden Smith, thank you so much.